The giant screen in the United Nations Assembly Hall showed the alien face. It had blue-gray skin, large purple eyes, and a small mouth. This was the third message from the Formidian Collective, an alien civilization from a star system 80 light-years away. Ambassador Susan Gray stood tall as she addressed the alien on screen. The people of Earth welcome peaceful contact with the Formidian Collective. We look forward to learning from each other. The alien, who called himself High Commander Zrax, made a sound like soft bells. Susan realized he was laughing. "We too seek peaceful relations," Zrax said. "Our people have traveled the stars for 1,000 years. We have much to teach your young species." Captain John Miller watched from the side of the room. As the top officer in Earth's Defense Force, he did not like the way the alien spoke to them. It reminded him of how adults talk to small children. 3 weeks later, a Formidian ship arrived in Earth orbit. It was huge, nearly a mile long and shaped like a silver arrowhead. Earth sent its best ship to meet them. The UES Defender looked tiny next to the alien vessel. John Miller led the military welcome team. He stood straight in his blue uniform as the Formidian delegates stepped out of their shuttle. There were 5 of them, all taller than the tallest human by at least a foot. "Captain Miller," said the lead alien, touching his chest with 3 long fingers, "I am Sub-Commander Vreek. I will assess your military capabilities while our diplomats speak with your leaders." John nodded. "We have prepared demonstrations of our defense systems. This way, please." For the next week, John showed the aliens Earth's best weapons and ships. The Formidians watched politely, but John noticed how they whispered to each other. Sometimes they made that bell-like laughing sound. During a test of Earth's newest fighter jets, Sub-Commander Vreek turned to John. "Your aircraft use combustion engines." "How?" "Traditional." "They serve our needs," John said, trying to hide his annoyance. "Of course," Vreek said. "Our youngest colonies began with similar technology several hundred years ago." After watching a tank demonstration, another Formidian whispered something that made the others laugh. John asked what was funny. "He said your vehicles still touch the ground." Vreek explained. "It is like watching children play with toys." That night, John met with Ambassador Gray in her office. "They're not taking us seriously," he said. "They laugh at everything we show them." Susan nodded. "I've noticed the same in our talks. They act like we're barely worth their time." "Do you think they're hiding something?" John asked. "Maybe. I've requested more information about their other contacts with alien species. They keep changing the subject." John looked out the window at the night sky. The Formidian ship was visible as a bright point of light. "I don't trust them. Their interest in our military seems too detailed." Unknown to the humans, at that very moment, Sub-Commander Vreek was reporting to High Commander Zrax aboard the Formidian ship. "Their technology is primitive," Vreek said. "Their weapons use physical projectiles. Their ships can barely reach their own moon." Zrax's purple eyes narrowed. "Defenses? Minimal. They have no energy shields. Their detection systems are basic. A single battle group could secure the entire planet. And their soldiers? Physically weak. No natural armor. No enhanced senses. They would break easily." Zrax touched a control panel, showing a map of Earth. "This will be our easiest acquisition yet. Begin scanning for resource deposits. Prepare invasion plans for my review." Vreek bowed. "When do we strike?" "Let them think we are friends for a few more months. Let them show us all their defenses. Then we will take this world so quickly they won't have time to resist." As the Formidians plotted above, Captain John Miller lay awake in his quarters. Something about these aliens bothered him deeply. He made a decision. Starting tomorrow, he would begin secret preparations, just in case Earth needed to fight for its survival. The Formidians might be laughing now, but John Miller had a feeling they might not be laughing for long. 6 months passed since the Formidians first arrived. Their ship remained in orbit, a constant reminder of their presence. On Earth, they shared some basic medical knowledge and helped improve crop yields. People began to trust them. Lieutenant Kate Winters looked out the window of Moon Base Alpha. Earth hung like a blue marble in the darkness. She had been in command of the Lunar Defense Station for 2 years. It was usually quiet work. "Lieutenant, we have unusual readings," said Pete, her sensor operator. "Several objects approaching from behind Mars." Kate moved to his screen. "Vormidian ships." "No, ma'am. Different signatures, but definitely not ours." Kate hit the alert button. "All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill." She called Earth immediately. "Defense Command, this is Moon Base Alpha. We have unknown craft approaching. Request instructions." Captain John Miller's face appeared on screen. "We see them too. The Vormidians claim they don't know anything about these ships. Hold position and—" The screen went black. At the same moment, alarms blared across the base. "We've lost connection with Earth," Pete said. "Something's jamming all signals." Kate looked at her team of 15 people. They were young, but well-trained. "Prepare defensive systems. Whatever's coming, we need to be ready." The first attack came minutes later. 3 large ships appeared, sleek and deadly. They fired energy beams that cut through the base's outer defenses like they were paper. "Those are Vormidian designs," Kate said, recognizing them from briefing files. "They lied to us." The base shook as another hit struck. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "Civilian quarters are hit," reported Sarah, another officer. "We need to evacuate them." Kate nodded. "Get all civilians to the emergency shuttles. We'll cover their escape." While Sarah led the evacuation, Kate and the remaining crew fired the base's railguns. The projectiles seemed to bounce off the alien ship's shields. "Adjust aim to their engine sections," Kate ordered. "Full power." This time, their shots made impact. 1 Vormidian ship spun out of control. "It worked," Pete shouted. Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Keep firing." On Earth, chaos erupted. Vormidian ships appeared in skies worldwide. The giant ship that had been in orbit now launched hundreds of smaller craft. Their friendly visitors had become invaders in an instant. In the Pentagon, Major Frank Daniels watched screens showing attacks across the globe. Captain Miller joined him, face grim. "The Vormidians played us," Frank said. "They studied our weaknesses for months." John nodded. "But I had my suspicions. Some of our forces were held in reserve, off the official records." On the screens, Vormidian landing craft touched down in remote areas, deserts, mountains, and forests. From these ships came smaller machines, not aliens themselves. "They're using robots," Frank observed. "Automated fighters." A message came through from Moon Base Alpha. Kate's face appeared, her forehead bleeding. Behind her, fires burned. "Earth Command, we've destroyed 3 enemy ships. Civilians evacuated, but we can't hold much longer." "Lieutenant, get your people out now," John ordered. Kate shook her head. "Not yet, sir. We can still delay them, give Earth more time." "Winter's out." The screen went dark. Frank studied the battle data flowing in. "Their technology is superior, but something's odd. The Vormidian force is mostly machines. Very few actual aliens." John thought for a moment. "They're not used to casualties. They let machines do the dying, while we're used to fighting and bleeding." Frank added, "Maybe that's an advantage." Outside, the sound of distant explosions rolled across the city. The Pentagon shook slightly. "Gather all field commanders," John said. "I have a plan." Frank looked at him. "We're outgunned, outhexed, and surrounded." John's face hardened. "Yes, but they've never fought humans before." In space, Kate Winters and her remaining crew fired everything they had at the 4th Vormidian ship. Their base was falling apart around them. But they bought Earth precious hours with their sacrifice. And on the blue planet below, humanity prepared to show the Vormidians what it meant to face an enemy that refused to surrender. 1 month into the invasion, the Formidians controlled large parts of Earth. Their robot soldiers marched through cities and towns. Their ships ruled the skies. But they did not find the easy victory they expected. Colonel Lisa Martinez crouched in the forest with her team of 20 soldiers. They watched as a line of Formidian supply vehicles moved along the road below. "They follow the same route every time," Lisa whispered. "They think we're not smart enough to notice patterns." Her second-in-command, Joe, checked his weapon. "Their machines are predictable. Always take the shortest path." Lisa nodded. "That's their weakness. Ready the traps." When the last vehicle in the line passed the marked tree, Lisa pressed a button. The road exploded. 3 vehicles flipped over. The others stopped. Robot soldiers poured out, scanning for threats. "Now," Lisa ordered. Her team fired special bullets that stuck to the robots and then released electrical pulses. The machines fell one by one. The few Formidian officers in the convoy were stunned by the quick attack. Before the aliens could call for help, Lisa's team stripped the convoy of weapons, food, and most importantly, communication equipment. They were gone before reinforcements arrived. This scene played out across Earth. Humans fought back in ways the Formidians did not expect. They used the land they knew well. They changed tactics constantly. They struck fast and disappeared. In a laboratory hidden underground, Peter Wright worked day and night. He was an engineer, not a soldier, but now everyone fought in their own way. "Try this frequency," Peter told Sam Johnson, a Special Forces soldier who protected the lab. Sam held up a small device and pointed it at a captured Formidian robot. The machine shook, then stopped moving. "It worked," Sam said. Peter nodded. "Their robots communicate on this channel. The jammer confuses them." "How many jammers can you make?" "With the parts we have, maybe 50. But if we get more supplies." Sam smiled. "My team can get supplies." Within weeks, fighters across the region carried jammers. Formidian robots became easier targets. Human soldiers could now approach Formidian bases without being detected. In a Formidian command center, Commander Vreek faced an angry hologram of High Commander Zrax. "Explain these failures," Zrax demanded. 3 supply lines disrupted. 2 outposts destroyed. The communication tower sabotage. Vreek bowed his head. "The humans fight. Strangely, they do not confront our forces directly. They use tricks. They adapt to our methods faster than predicted. They are primitives. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Yes, but they find ways to use our technology against us. They captured one of our officers and somehow extracted information about our robot control systems." Zrax's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our officers are trained to resist interrogation." This officer wasn't tortured. The humans offered medical help for his injuries. They'd brought his favorite foods. They talked to him, made him feel safe. And he betrayed us. He said he didn't realize he was sharing sensitive information. Their approach was unexpected. In a captured Formidian base, Major Frank Daniels studied a map showing enemy positions. Captain John Miller, now promoted to colonel, joined him. "Lisa's guerrilla teams have pushed them back 30 miles on the Western Front," Frank reported. "And the jammers from Peter Wright are changing the game." John nodded. "We're learning their weaknesses. They rely too much on their robots and standard procedures. They don't adapt well," Frank added. "When something doesn't work, they just use more of it. More robots, more ships. They don't change strategies." John looked at the latest reports from around the world. "Humans are good at finding new ways to solve problems. We've had to be throughout our history. The Formidians don't understand that about us yet." John smiled slightly. "No, they don't. And by the time they figure it out, it might be too late for them." Outside, a captured Formidian robot walked past, now reprogrammed to carry supplies for human fighters. The Earth's defenders were turning the enemy's strengths into weaknesses, one innovation at a time. 3 months into the war, the Vormidians began to worry. Their easy victory had not happened. Their robots were being destroyed. Their bases were attacked by small groups that disappeared before reinforcements arrived. High Commander Zrax stood on the bridge of his command ship. He watched recordings of human soldiers fighting. "Show me again," he ordered. The screen showed a female human soldier. She had been shot in the arm, but kept fighting. She pulled a wounded comrade to safety, then returned to the battle. "Our records said humans would stop fighting when injured," Zrax said. "This one did not." Commander Vreek nodded. "We are seeing this behavior often. They continue despite wounds that would stop any Vormidian." "How?" "Their bodies are fragile. It seems to be mental, not physical. They ignore pain when their goals require it." Zrax watched more recordings. Humans fighting at night. Humans setting traps. Humans pretending to retreat, then surrounding Vormidian forces. "They use deception constantly," Zrax noted. "It is not honorable." "They do not care about honor in battle," Vreek said. "They care about winning." Meanwhile, Captain Olivia Martinez prepared for the most daring mission yet. She and her team of 12 soldiers would infiltrate a Vormidian command ship to steal information. "The ship has landed for repairs," she told her team. "Security will be heavy, but we have Peter's new jammers. They disable cameras as well as robots." A soldier named Rick looked nervous. "If we're caught?" Olivia nodded. "It's risky, but we need their battle plans." "Any questions?" No one spoke. They trusted her. She had kept them alive this long. That night, they approached the massive ship under cover of darkness. The jammers worked. They slipped past robot guards that stood frozen, their systems confused. Inside, they moved silently through long corridors. 2 Vormidian officers appeared. Olivia's team stunned them quickly. "The command center should be this way," Olivia whispered, following a map they had obtained from a captured Vormidian. When they reached the ship's data center, Olivia plugged in a special drive created by Peter. It began copying everything. Suddenly, alarms blared. "They've detected us," Rick said. "Keep copying," Olivia ordered. "We don't leave without that data." Vormidian soldiers rushed in. A firefight erupted. 2 of Olivia's team fell. The copying reached 90%. "We need to go," Rick urged. "Not yet." Olivia fired at the approaching aliens. The copy reached 100%. "Now we go." They fought their way out, carrying their wounded. Only 8 made it back to base, but they brought the most valuable prize yet: detailed Vormidian battle plans and research files. Colonel John Miller reviewed the stolen data with his team of officers. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a file. "Their analysis of human physiology." The file showed comparisons between Vormidians and humans. It noted, "Humans evolved on high-gravity world with many predators. Bodies adapted for endurance and survival in harsh conditions. Mental capacity to ignore pain and continue fighting. Uses group tactics like ancient pack hunters. Severely underestimated in initial assessment." Another file contained messages between Vormidian commanders. One wrote, "These humans do not follow logical battle protocols. When outmatched, they should surrender. Instead, they fight harder and take greater risks." Major Frank Daniels smiled. "They're beginning to understand what they're up against." "Yes," John agreed, "but there's something else." He showed them the Vormidian battle hierarchy. "Look how centralized their command is. Each unit follows exact orders from above, while our forces can make decisions in the field," Frank said. "That's an advantage." John nodded. "We need to share this with all resistance groups. The Vormidians are strong, but they're not adaptable. They can't handle the unexpected. And humans," Frank added, "specialize in the unexpected." On his ship, High Commander Zrax came to a disturbing realization. His species had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced anything like humans before. 8 months after the invasion began, things started to change. Humans were no longer just running and hiding. They were fighting back in bigger ways. Dr. Alan Foster stood in a crowded underground lab. He held up what looked like a thin vest. "It works," he told the soldiers gathered around him. "This material can stop Vormidian energy weapons." Colonel John Miller touched the light fabric. "You're sure?" Alan nodded. "We tested it. The energy disperses across the surface instead of burning through." "How did you figure this out?" "From the wreckage of their ships. Their hull material has similar properties. We just adapted it." John smiled. "How many can you make?" "With the factories we've secured, thousands within a month." Across the hall, General Diane Nelson trained new recruits using captured Vormidian weapons. "Their guns are designed for their three-fingered hands," she explained, "but we've modified them to work for us." The recruits practiced firing the alien weapons at targets. The energy beams were much more powerful than human bullets. "Remember," Diane told them, "aim for their environmental packs. Vormidians can't breathe our air for long without them." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Ben Clark led a special force with a unique mission. His team included soldiers, engineers, and even artists and musicians. "The Vormidians use predictable patterns," Ben told them. "Their battle computers can't handle creative solutions, so we give them problems they've never seen before." His team created decoys that fooled Vormidian sensors. They painted vehicles with materials that blocked alien scanners. They used music frequencies that disrupted robot communications. During one battle, they released hundreds of small drones that looked like attackers on Vormidian screens. While the aliens focused on these fake threats, Ben's real team destroyed their base from another direction. The biggest victory came when Navy Commander Ryan Kelly captured a small Vormidian destroyer. His team studied how it worked, then used it to approach a Vormidian battle group in orbit. "They think we're one of them," Ryan told his crew as they neared the alien ships. "Wait for my signal." When they were close to the Vormidian command ship, Ryan ordered, "Fire everything." The captured destroyer launched its weapons at point-blank range. The Vormidian ships were caught completely by surprise. 3 exploded immediately. Others were damaged. "Now get us out of here," Ryan ordered. His pilot pushed the engines to full power, escaping before the remaining Vormidian ships could respond. This attack destroyed a quarter of the Vormidian orbital fleet. For the first time, Earth's space was not completely controlled by the invaders. On his flagship, High Commander Zrax received the news of these defeats. His purple eyes narrowed as he addressed his war council. "How are these primitives causing such damage?" he demanded. "They had no space fleet. Their weapons were centuries behind ours." Commander Vreek looked uncomfortable. "They are learning to use our technology against us. They capture one ship or weapon, study it, then use that knowledge to capture more. That should not be possible. They should not be able to understand our science so quickly." Another officer spoke up. "We may have misjudged their intelligence. They seem highly adaptable." Zrax slammed his fist on the table. "Send in our elite forces. No more robot soldiers. I want our best warriors to crush these humans once and for all." But as the Vormidians prepared their counterattack, humans worldwide continued to innovate. They shared information through hidden networks. Each victory taught them more about beating the aliens. Each captured piece of technology made them stronger. In his command center, Colonel John Miller received reports of human forces reclaiming territory on every continent. "We're pushing them back," Major Frank Daniels said with pride. John nodded. "The Vormidians are still dangerous, but they made one big mistake." "What's that?" "They thought technology alone would win this war, but wars aren't won by weapons." John looked at the map showing human resistance forces around the world. "They're won by the people who use them." The war entered its 11th month. The Vormidians gathered their leaders for an emergency meeting. Their grand invasion had become a painful struggle. High Commander Zrax stood before the Vormidian Council, the 7 oldest and wisest members of their species. Their faces showed on large screens around the room. "Explain these failures," said Council Leader Drav. This planet should have been conquered months ago. Zrax bowed his head. We made a serious error in our assessment of humans. He showed them battle footage. Humans fighting in burning buildings to rescue others. Humans using simple tools to disable complex Vormidian machines. Humans surviving in harsh conditions that would kill Vormidians. Their world shaped them differently than our peaceful home planet, Zrax explained. Earth has extreme weather, dangerous animals, and difficult terrain. Humans evolved to survive all of it. But their technology is primitive, said another council member. Yes, but they learned quickly. They have taken our weapons and improved them. They understand our weaknesses now. Zrax displayed more images. Most concerning is their reaction to defeat. When Vormidians face certain defeat, we retreat to fight another day. It is logical, but humans often fight harder when victory seems impossible. The council members looked troubled by this information. Even worse, Zrax continued, our conquered worlds are beginning to rebel. They hear stories about Earth's resistance and find courage to fight back. On Earth, a coordinated counteroffensive began. Colonel Patricia Harris led the assault on the main Vormidian base in the Arctic. The aliens had built it there because they preferred cold environments. They think the harsh weather protects them. Patricia told her troops, but we humans have lived in every environment on Earth. Cold doesn't stop us. Her soldiers wore the new protective vests and carried modified Vormidian weapons. They moved across the ice on special vehicles designed by Earth engineers. Patricia's plan targeted the Vormidian command structure. Their soldiers can't make decisions without orders from above, she told her officers. If we cut off their commanders, the rest will be confused. They attacked from multiple directions at once. Some teams created distractions. Others aimed for the communication towers. The main force, led by Patricia herself, headed for the command center. The battle was fierce. Vormidian elite troops fought better than their robot soldiers, but they still followed rigid tactics. When humans did unexpected things, the aliens struggled to respond. Patricia's team reached the command center and planted special devices created by Peter Wright. These devices sent false orders to Vormidian forces across the region. Soon, alien troops were moving away from their positions, creating gaps in their defense. In space, Captain Greg Morgan commanded Earth's newest ship, the Defiance. It was built using Vormidian technology, but designed with human creativity. Unlike the orderly, predictable alien ships, the Defiance could change its energy signature, making it hard to track. They won't expect us to attack directly, Greg told his crew. So that's exactly what we'll do. The Defiance accelerated toward the massive Vormidian orbital command platform. Alien ships moved to intercept it, but Greg's pilot weaved between them, following no pattern the Vormidians could predict. When they reached the platform, Greg's weapons officer targeted its power core. Fire when ready, Greg ordered. The Defiance launched missiles designed by Dr. Alan Foster. They penetrated the platform's shields by changing frequency to match the shields themselves. Another human innovation. The command platform exploded in a ball of light. Without it, the Vormidian ships in orbit lost coordination. Some crashed into each other. Others retreated. On his flagship, High Commander Zrax watched as his forces fell into chaos. He had sent 12 elite battalions to Earth. 10 were now defeated or surrounded. How is this possible? He asked Commander Freak. They are not like any species we have encountered, Freak replied. We thought our technology made us superior, but their will to survive, their creativity, their ability to work together in the face of overwhelming odds, these qualities are more powerful than we understood. Drax looked at the blue planet on his screen. Perhaps, he said slowly, it is time to consider the possibility that we cannot win this war. Nearly 2 years after the invasion began, the Vormidians sent a message to Earth. They wanted to talk about peace. Colonel John Miller, now General Miller, sat at the large round table. Across from him were High Commander Zrax and 3 other Vormidian leaders. Ambassador Susan Gray sat beside John. "We are prepared to withdraw all forces from your world," Drax said. His voice no longer held the superior tone from their first meetings. Susan spoke carefully. "And our prisoners, thousands of humans were taken to your ships. They will be returned safely," Drax promised. "We also offer reparations, technology and resources to help rebuild what was destroyed." John studied the alien leader. "Why the change of heart? Your forces still outnumber ours in space." Drax's large purple eyes met John's. "Because we now understand that this war cannot be won. Not by us. For every ship we send, you find a way to defeat it. For every weapon we create, you develop a counter. We have lost more in this war than in the previous 500 years of expansion." The peace talks continued for weeks. Finally, both sides signed a treaty. The Vormidians would leave Earth. They would pay for rebuilding. They would share some of their technology. In return, humans would not pursue them into space. At least not yet. As the last Vormidian ships prepared to depart, Vormidian Supreme Leader Xerix arrived to formalize the peace. He was older than any Vormidian humans had seen before, with pale blue-gray skin. In a ceremony broadcast worldwide, Xerix addressed humanity. "On behalf of the Vormidian Collective, I offer our formal apology. We gravely misjudged your species." He looked around at the human leaders gathered before him. "Your technology appeared primitive, but your adaptive capabilities, resilience, and tactical creativity exceed anything we have encountered in our 1,000 years of expansion. The collective has much to learn from humanity." After the ceremony, Xerix spoke privately with General Miller and Ambassador Gray. "We have conquered 17 worlds," he admitted. "None resisted like Earth. None turned our own technology against us so effectively." "What will happen to those worlds?" Susan asked. "They will be given independence," Xerix said. "Your example has changed our thinking. Conquest is not the path to advancement." As the final Vormidian ship lifted off from Earth, people around the world celebrated. The war was over. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and survived. 1 month later, Admiral Kate Winters stood before a class of new recruits. She had survived the battle at Moon Base Alpha and now led Earth's new space defense force. "The ships you will serve on combine human ingenuity with Vormidian technology," she told them. "They represent our future among the stars." A young recruit raised his hand. "Ma'am, do you think the Vormidians will come back?" Kate shook her head. "No. They learned their lesson. And so did we." She walked to a window that showed the construction of Earth's first true space fleet. They laughed at Earth's army until they realized it had human soldiers. Now nobody's laughing anymore. In his office, General John Miller reviewed plans for Earth's first colony ship. Ambassador Susan Gray joined him. "We've come so far in just 2 years," she said, "from merely being conquered to preparing to explore the stars ourselves." John nodded. "The Vormidians gave us a hard push into the future. They thought they were superior because of their technology. They didn't understand that technology is just a tool. It's the people who use it that matter." Susan looked at the star chart on his wall. "Do you think we'll find other alien civilizations out there?" "I'm sure we will," John said. "And when we do, I hope they don't make the same mistake the Vormidians did." "What mistake was that?" John smiled. "Underestimating humans. Across the galaxy, the Vormidians were already spreading the word to other spacefaring races. The small blue planet called Earth was home to the most formidable species he had encountered. They looked harmless at first glance, but that appearance was deceiving, because Earth had humans, and humans never, ever gave up.